Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Welcome to the next part in our series on a Tesla 2025 price target. You can click on the link above to view the first video. Now in our last video, we established an estimate for the capacity of the number of vehicles Tesla's Gigafactories could reach in 2025. It came in at nearly 15 million. So if you think that is too extreme, then fair enough, but if it's achieved, it won't be the first time Tesla have surprised us in similar ways. So if you don't believe it, you may still wish to humour the rest of the series to see if we can establish a price for the stock. Now these numbers were based as much as possible on what Tesla and Elon have told us. These are not my own personal predictions, so just to be clear, these forecasts resemble closest to what we've been told by whom we would expect to be the most credible on the matter. Elon has been overly optimistic in the past, so we can't be certain we may reach these targets. But if you don't believe them, then that's fine. Once complete, I'll give you the link to the spreadsheet and you can make whatever adjustments you wish to arrive at the numbers you see fit. The rest of the spreadsheet will simply calculate the correct math for you. Okay, so in this price target, we're going to include other products like energy. So let's first establish how much battery supply Tesla is likely to have in 2025. Well, Elon has said that Fremont will move to 4680 batteries in the next couple of years, so all Tesla factories and suppliers will be producing 4680 form batteries. So let's work out how many batteries Tesla will have available to them in 2025. First off, we can start with Tesla's pilot plant in Kato Road, and this has a capacity of 20 gigawatt hours a year. Although it's not huge, it should be ample to cover the Model X and S with some leftover. Current production in Giga Nevada is around 35 gigawatt hours a year. Panasonic have already announced they will commence production in April 2021 for the 4680 batteries. On Battery Day, we saw that 4680 batteries require 1/10 the footprint of the 2170 batteries, implying that Panasonic could be making 350 gigawatt hours in Nevada alone, and that's without any further expansion of the factory. CATL are already supplying all of Tesla's LFP batteries in China and Fremont for their standard Model 3s. If we have combined 400,000 Model 3 sales a year with 54 kilowatt hour batteries, using these batteries, we're at just over 20 gigawatt hours already. CATL will have converted to the 4680 form by 2025 to supply Tesla. Just remember, there is no other company showing any signs of ramping up to anything like Tesla. In other words, the other battery suppliers are basically ramping up solely for Tesla. If CATL are only ramping up for lithium iron phosphate, then they don't have to worry about any nickel supply. Also, if they're using 4680 batteries, again, they only need 1/10 the size of a factory. I think CATL alone could reach a supply of 500 gigawatt hours for LFP batteries by 2025. LG Chem is currently supplying the 2170 nickel-based batteries for Tesla in China for the Model Y and long-range Model 3. They must be at a level to serve perhaps 200,000 vehicles annually at 75 kilowatt hours each, coming in at 15 gigawatt hours a year. I think by 2025, with the 4680 form, LG should be able to ramp up to 150 gigawatt hours of nickel and manganese and nickel cathode batteries. Berlin is meant to have a 250 gigawatt hour battery capacity. It would be hard to tell what combination of nickel and iron cathodes though. As far as I can tell, we haven't heard much about the battery factory in Texas, but Elon has said that he wants to make all the batteries local to the factories. So if Berlin is at 250 gigawatt hours, then perhaps Texas is going to be closer to 300 gigawatt hours. The Chinese Model 2 will definitely have a battery factory on site. This factory is going to be designed around getting costs as low as possible. If you make batteries somewhere else and have to transport them to the factory, the extra logistics are obviously going to add to cost. Now, we estimated 43 kilowatt hours per Model 2, and with 5 million units, that comes in at 215 gigawatt hours a year. Yes, I understand this level of battery production is on a very large scale, but bear in mind, Tesla have not been putting much effort into ramping up battery production until lately, as they didn't have a battery they wanted to scale. The 2170s were a fool's errand. They weren't going to reach the level required. They simply took too long to make and required far too much space to manufacture them. Tesla identified this early, which is why they spent so much research and development on the 4680s. Now Tesla will be all hands on deck ramping up these batteries. The manufacturing process is so much faster with the likes of removing the wet slurry. Okay, so if you recall, we actually worked out how many kilowatt hours of battery each vehicle will require. So now we can pull those numbers and we will see just what we have. and it comes in at a total of 923 gigawatt hours of batteries, which is a significant amount. Due to the way we structured this data, we can also work out total gigawatt hours required for each factory and total gigawatt hours for each model. We actually also have enough data to work out how much of each battery type will be required too. I looked at adding this in, but it was actually going to take a lot of time. And as we don't specifically know what proportion Tesla will be making from their battery factories, it's actually not that useful yet. However, this is a model we can certainly build on and add more data later. Just a quick refresh. Tesla announced 3 types of battery cathodes. LFP for medium range, which are low cost, nickel and manganese for the longer range and higher performance, and the pure nickel for the vehicles that require the most power density, like the Roadster and semi-truck. Okay, so now we can enter all the battery supply we have from Tesla and their other suppliers into a table. We'll be using units of gigawatt hours. For Kato Road, I'm sure they'll be higher than 20 gigawatt hours by this stage, but this was the capacity we were told. And I think this will likely be pure nickel for the Plaid Plus edition, which should be ample supply to cover the demand. So for Giga Nevada, I think this could be mainly nickel and manganese, as that's the most similar to the 2170s they're already producing, but it may not be. We're guessing here, but at the end of the day, it shouldn't have too major impact on our price targets. And we thought that they would have reached 10 times more capacity than Nevada are doing with their 2170s, despite them already starting new 4680 production lines in there currently. So I almost want to say we're being conservative here, but come on, when we have 350 gigawatt hours already, I'm not sure we can really call this conservative. We said that CATL could be up to 500 gigawatt hours of LFP. Now, if you have a company and you know that you'll have a customer that will buy everything you make, then aren't you going to ramp up as much as you can? Especially when said customer has created a battery for you to improve your profit margins dramatically, create your products dramatically faster, and require 1/10 the factory space in order to do so. Remember, there are no scarce materials going into LFP. There is plenty of iron, silicone, graphite, and lithium. It's simply about scaling up manufacturing. And what nation is better at that than China? LGNG, we thought they might supply about 150 gigawatt hours of nickel and manganese batteries, but I see no reason they couldn't also provide pure nickel too, perhaps if it's required from semi-truck orders. But we're really shooting in the dark here, so let's just stick with nickel and manganese. Like I keep saying, this is a dynamic model. We can change the numbers very easily later. These videos are more about how the model is constructed than the actual numbers themselves. The numbers we are using, I'm just gathering from what we can best infer from Tesla, Elon, and their partners. Now, for Berlin, we've been told this should reach 250 gigawatt hours. There are no semi or Cybertrucks and no Roadsters being made there, as far as we know, but it's highly possible Tesla might open a European factory to make a smaller version of the Cybertruck, and possibly the semi and van too. But as likely as that is, we've not been told that, so in other words, we'll just assume that Berlin is not producing any nickel batteries. Now, Texas certainly will be producing the nickel batteries, and as we can see, the semi alone will require 60 gigawatt hours. So let's say they are producing 100 gigawatt hours of nickel, and then perhaps 125 of LFP and 75 gigawatt hours of nickel and manganese. The more I get into this, the more I see it might be prudent to break up the actual requirements of type of battery for each factory, but that is a lot of work, so I think we'll do that in a video later. But I think when this model is finished, it's going to be really useful. Next up, we have the Chinese Giga Model 2. Well, we've worked out that this will require 215 gigawatt hours of batteries, so I think a factory similar to Berlin at 250 gigawatt hours is probably what we expect. And then we had our 2 other random factories that will likely have a battery plant next to them, perhaps each producing around 60 gigawatt hours to cover their vehicles, and perhaps 50 LFP and 10 nickel and manganese, because we're just going with the most basic cars for the moment. So when we put all these into our table, we come out with a crazy 2 terawatt hours of batteries. Is that crazy though? Well, this is only 1 terawatt hour in-house. Tesla are expecting 3 terawatt hours by 2030. Well, Elon actually said they would expect that before then. Remember, this is probably going to be the biggest company in the world, with the most resources in every aspect. They're going to have the potential to make more money than any other company in history, but they can't achieve that goal without batteries. So they're obviously going to do everything they can to source some serious battery supply. The entire business depends on it, and the business is trying to save the world. So one extreme way to look at it is the entire existence of mankind depends on it. So everything is being done to achieve this. But just look at the timeline. Say that Tesla actually think they can reach 3 terawatt hours by 2028 or 2029, then the halfway point is 2025 from about now. So shouldn't it be possible that they're at half of 3 terawatt hours by 2025? Well, not entirely, as some of it will be exponential growth too. For example, finding faster ways of manufacturing the batteries, in addition to adding more factories. On the other hand, these efficiency improvements are likely to occur earlier, and it will become harder to find the low-hanging fruit of ways to improve production speed. So yes, it actually is possible they could reach this level of battery supply soon. But in reality, if it takes 1 or 2 years longer, these are the kind of numbers we're looking at, and surely that's good enough to whet your appetite. As for suppliers, well, these are 3 companies that are focusing solely on battery production. They don't have to worry about manufacturing cars, Powerwalls, solar panels, etc. They just need to focus on batteries. Not only that, they are the biggest and best battery manufacturers on the planet today. So who knows, they could be doing more than Tesla. We only have them collectively producing as much as Tesla in-house. They could be doing triple that for all we know. Okay, I think we'll stop here, and next we'll see how many batteries we have left over for energy storage. Spoiler alert, it looks like energy will be part of Tesla's business in 2025. Thanks for listening, please hit the thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe.